Hey everybody, this video is sponsored by Purina Nature's Match. It's the final video in our Purina video series this year. I'll put a link in the description down to a playlist where you can check out all the Purina Nature's Match videos for this year. But this is going to be the final video where we take a look at the final product of our pork and we see just how Purina Nature's Match did as the sole ration for our pigs this winter. Stay tuned. Today is the day that I have been dreading for a little bit now. Today's the day I go to the grocery store and I buy pork for the first time in close to 4 years. So just a couple weeks ago, we processed all of our pigs for the year and we got some great looking pork out of it. I've shared that with you in other videos, but I want to do a side-by-side comparison to show you what it looks like when you raise your own pork at home, even if you're using a bagged pig feed diet versus pork that you buy at the grocery store and what those breeds are bred to do. So that's it. Today I'm going into the belly of the beast. I'm going to buy some pork chops at the grocery store. We're going to bring them home and we're going to take a look at them and compare them side by side. I got something at the grocery store. Look at the delicious.
Oh, why did you? Oh, I know why you got those.
We're gonna compare them.
Those look sad.
The pig looks sad.
I felt dirty in the grocery store buying pork. I mean, I know I shouldn't have because I buy other stuff at the grocery store, but just going in and buying pork, it felt weird and a little bit To compete with what we had cut from our pig, I got some boneless chops, or that's what we had ours cut as. I like baby back ribs, and you can't have bone-in pork chops unless you get rid of your baby back ribs. So I defer to boneless chops. I like that boneless chops are easier to cook more evenly as well. That's just kind of my take on it. Let's get these chops on the tailgate of my truck. We'll get the camera in on them and we'll take a look at them up close. All right, so here's what we're working with here. Signature Farms, product of USA, fresh pork, natural with an asterisk. According to them, natural means minimally processed, no preservatives, no artificial ingredients. It is USDA inspected and it is perishable, keep refrigerated, cook thoroughly. So list price on these is $5.99 a pound, which is not unheard of right now in the market. Meat prices are higher than usual. However, they were on sale for $3.47 a pound, which is typically what I would expect to pay for pork chops normally. I did go for the best that I could find on the meat shelf. So you can see there is some marbling in there. There wasn't much fat cap left on, virtually nothing. And you do have nice big chops here. So if you like a lean pork chop, this is actually a pretty solid pork chop. Like I said, I went with the best that I could find in there as far as boneless chops go. I don't have time to actually cook these pork chops today. Jackie and I have some chores to do. I've got to get the snowblower ready because we've got a snowstorm coming in. And then we're going to do some family Christmas stuff tonight. However, I am going to take these and freeze them, not just because I don't have time to do it today, because I want it to be a fair challenge. See, the pork chops from our pig are frozen in our freezer, vac sealed. And these, it says fresh on there, and I'm not sure if they're saying fresh meaning that they were never frozen, which is kind of weird. But in the fish world, typically fresh means it was never frozen, and previously frozen has to be labeled as such. It doesn't say anything on here. It does say minimally processed. So I'm thinking maybe this was never frozen. So I'm going to vac seal these. I'm going to get them in the freezer. And then when we come back, we're going to grill these up. We're going to do a side-by-side comparison and see how the homegrown stuff stacks up against the store-bought stuff. They're not terrible looking.
One week later.
We're in the house. It's a snowy day out. As you can see behind me there, out the window. So what better day to make some pork chops for lunch? All right, so here we go. Nobody can accuse me of sandbagging this competition because the store-bought chops actually look pretty good. And those are our chops over there.
So basically what we're looking at is just this part of the pork chop.
Yeah, so your traditional pork chop from the store is typically going to be center cut, which is going to look like that. And then your homegrown chop, it leaves this muscle up here is called the spinalis. And it's like a cap on a ribeye, or on a pork chop it's just there, but on your home cut pork chop that stays there. You can cut it out. You can do a center cut pork chop and run that all through grind, but it's so good. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to. So what Jackie was asking about there was why this looks so much more uniform than this, why there's more fat here. Typically with a store-bought pork chop, you're getting a center cut, which is going to be, they cut all of this off. This is the spinalis muscle, spinalis dorsi. So the spinalis sits just under the fat cap on a pig. There would be a layer of fat up above that. That's typically cut off for rendering. And then this is your loin. I'm going to head out back. I'm going to fire up the grill. We're going to come back inside. We're going to season these up. And then once the grill's heated, we're going to throw them on. All right, we'll let this heat up. Go season the pork chops. As far as seasoning goes, I'm not gonna mess with these too much. Salt, pepper, that's it, nothing else. Grill is about as hot as it's gonna get on this cold day. Let's get these on there. All right, now we set a timer for 1 minute and 30 seconds. You wanna be here, you wanna watch these, because your homegrown pork chops are gonna have more fat on them than your store-bought pork chops, which I showed you before. So you do run the risk of flare-ups, but I cook these just like steaks, like a good steak. You don't want to go too long on them. You wanna make sure that you're getting them done quick, because if you go too long on them, any pork chop's gonna dry out on you. So go minute 30, flip them, minute 30 on the other side, flip them again, and then you do a minute on each side for the second flips. All right, we're gonna bring these inside and we're gonna let them rest for 5 minutes before we do anything to them. While those are inside resting, let me come outside and let's talk to you a little bit about Purina. Over this past pork growing season, we were lucky enough to get to work with Purina and feed our pigs their nature's match, sow and pig to start, and then we did a little bit of the grower finisher on the end here. And part of the reason why we did that when Purina approached us was because it was a feed that we were kind of sort of already looking at feeding our pigs. In some of the years past when we were growing pork, we were just kind of giving our pigs whatever we could find at the feed store that was cheap. We would bounce around from brand to brand, and if something was on sale at one feed store, or if there was a promotion at another feed store, or if we could get a good pallet price on something from someone else, we really kind of didn't carry one feed through from start to finish. So for this year, we wanted to do something where we could kind of experiment with the feed and carry it all the way through and see what happened. Lucky for us, Purina actually stepped up and approached us and said, hey, we'd be interested in sponsoring your pig program this year. Now, when I was first working with Purina, they knew point blank I wasn't going to say anything that I didn't believe was true. I wasn't going to just, take the food and give them a good review and send it on the way. It was going to be honest, and they were totally okay with that. So here's what I'm going to say about Purina food. I have no issues with it. We fed it to our pigs. Our pigs were healthy all the way through. They grew extremely well. All of our hanging weights were between 230 and 260 at 7 months of age, which is great growth. There was not too much fat cap on our pigs at all. We didn't end up with a ton of fat. We ended up with a ton of really great lean meat for our customers that was well marbled and delicious, which is the number one thing. It was palatable. The pigs always ate it. They never had an issue with, you know, when I put food down in front of them, they wouldn't leave anything. They would scarf it right up. And that's really kind of the number one thing about pig feed is, do they eat it, and is it putting weight on them correctly and in all the right places? And Purina did that. Now, I will say, if you're raising a ton of pigs, the pricing on the Purina can get a little expensive. I believe as of this video, it was $19 or $20 a bag, which if you're growing a lot of pigs, can be a good chunk of change. However, for the home grower, and you're not buying, you know, if you're raising 3 or 4 pigs, that's a reasonable price to pay for feed, and you're still going to come out with a product that's far superior to what you can get in the stores. If you don't believe me, let's go inside and take a look. Store-bought pork chop over here, homegrown pork chop from the Mindful Homestead over here. Let's cut these open and see what's going on inside. I mean, you can see, cooked the same time, right about the same thickness. One's definitely more tender. Let's get Jackie in here and let's do a blind taste test. All right, blind taste test. Don't look. It's over here. All right, this is the first one. All right, did you get a good feel for it?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the second one.
I think it's good.
You want pork? Come here. Here. Let me cut you a little piece. Here's the first one. So which do you think was which?
It's kind of hard. I think maybe the first was Mindful Homestead and the second was the store.
Ding, ding, ding. Why do you think that?
There was definitely like a, I don't know if you'd call it like a more gamey flavor, but there's definitely flavor. It wasn't just standard pork.
Mindful Homestead. That flavor that she talks about, that's from the fat. That's the way the pig was raised. That's just the intramuscular fat. The fat that's left on it with that spinous muscle that's there. You're gonna have a much fuller flavor from a homegrown pork chop than any store-bought pork chop, just because of the way the animal was raised. And because you're feeding quality feed, if you choose to do so, it's gonna also impact the flavor a ton. There you have it, folks. Store-bought pork versus Mindful Homestead homegrown pork. Definitely, if you have a small farm or homestead, it's worth looking at bringing pigs onto your farm so you can do the same thing. As always, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.